Thanks so much. Yeah, let's jump right into things here. Filament Health joining us today. Ben Lightburn, CEO and co-founder of Filament Health, here with us. We're going to talk about an all-natural approach to the psychedelic industry and the extraction process that is involved in an all-natural approach. Ben, great to have you on the show. Tell viewers first off, to start things off, we should clarify, maybe the difference between, traditionally how companies approach this and taking an all-natural approach.
Well, thanks, Brandon, and that's a great question. Traditionally, actually, it's important to remember that these substances were all consumed from the natural world, right? Indigenous people for thousands of years would go out and collect raw plants, vines, herbs, mushrooms in particular, and over time they identified which of these species contain different psychoactive compounds, and they would use those for a variety of purposes. Now, when these same compounds and species were discovered by the Western world, it so happened that they were discovered by a pharmaceutical chemist named Albert Hofmann, and he was an expert in creating processes of chemical synthesis to recreate these naturally occurring compounds, but in a laboratory setting. So he found the different permutation and combination and a wide variety of different steps that were required to kind of form the building blocks and build these compounds like psilocybin in a lab, in an artificial synthesis process. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with those processes. They can be inefficient. They can have some kind of unwanted byproducts, and some of the base chemicals used are known to be toxic. At the end of the day, though, the products are showing to be safe and efficacious. What we do at Filament, however, is we take these raw materials. In our case, in our manufacturing facility, there you see a nice picture of B+ mushrooms being grown and harvested. We take the original raw materials, we grow them in our lab, and then we employ various processes of extraction, purification, standardization, to yield a pharmaceutical grade product, which is actually extracted directly from nature itself. We believe that doing things the natural way brings a number of advantages. Number one is simply that there is a very, very strong and undeniable consumer preference for natural products in all aspects of their life, right? How many people prefer to take synthetic caffeine? How many people prefer aspartame over stevia or monk fruit extract? Things of that nature. And while in the pharmaceutical market, there might not be a lot of room for consumers to have choice between a synthetic or a natural product, in any other future non-pharmaceutical market that opens up, we expect natural products to be the clear choice for therapists and patients alike.
All right. So the obvious question here, Ben, if you're taking this on, from an investor side, is what is the downside? Obviously, if the entire industry is working one way, and you try and come at this with an all-natural approach, which is great, obviously, but what's the downside? Is it a longer time period? Is it higher costs? Tell us a little bit about what sets this process apart from the other.
A great question. You are the best interviewer on YouTube, if not in the world. I would say that there are many small and perhaps perceived downsides, but there are no large drawbacks that that fundamentally negate the natural approach. You'll hear synthetically focused companies say, well, natural is too expensive. It's too hard to standardize. It's not GMP. The FDA will never approve it. You can't get any intellectual property protection. And while there is a small element of truth in all of those things, in aggregate, we believe that they are more or less falsely held, especially by many in the psychedelics industry. Just to take an example, over 40% of all new pharmaceutical products are discovered in the natural world, or remain natural to this very day. The largest selling cancer drug of all time was actually a natural extract from the Pacific yew tree, a compound called paclitaxel, marketed under the brand name of Taxol. Perhaps the biggest thing that we hear is lack of intellectual property protection, because at the end of the day, these are naturally occurring molecules. It's true, it's not possible to get a patent on the molecule itself, natural or synthetic. However, due to prohibition for 50 or 60 years, there really has been no research or much in the way of publications or really anything in the patent literature pertaining to all of the technologies I mentioned that we employ to turn a raw natural biomass into a pharmaceutical grade extract. I'm talking about processes of extraction, purification, standardization, compositions of matter for different delivery methods. None of those technologies have been discovered or described. And our IP portfolio, which we describe as robust and aggressive, covers many different innovative technologies in this unique space of different technologies required to make these pharmaceutical grade extracts. So in fact, we think that the natural approach actually provides much better opportunities for IP protection for the end products.
Let's talk a little bit about the supply side of the business here, because it's one that is continuing to grow almost on a daily basis and has almost unlimited upside potential. So tell us about the processing facility, the license currently held, and how Filament Health is really approaching the supply side of things.
So one thing that really sets us apart, other than being natural, of course, is the fact that we actually have in-house manufacturing. So this is not something that many other companies have. Companies like Compass and MindMed, they even emphasize that they're going to outsource the manufacturing. We believe very strongly that having manufacturing in-house gives us a much better control over the product and, crucially, a much better chance to discover what's the next best psychedelic that's going to come. Right? There's no rule that says that psilocybin is the best psychedelic. There's no rule that says that psilocybin is the best psychedelic, from within the magic mushroom. So we worked very hard to build a facility, lease a facility. It's 3,500 square feet. We have what's called a Health Canada dealer's license. This is what's required to manufacture controlled substances like psilocybin. We also have GMP certification. And what this means is we can make clinical trial candidates for our own clinical trials, but also potentially supply other companies in the industry that wish to do clinical trial drug development with a natural sourced option. Not only does it give them the ability to work with natural products, but for companies that may be running up against this problem of how do I get IP, remember, all of our extracts are protected by various trade secrets and patent applications, and hopefully very soon actual issued patents. And so we can share in this intellectual property with third-party drug developers to try to provide them with some protection when their eventual therapeutic product gets approved. Already in our facility, we are manufacturing the equivalent of 5,000 high doses of psilocybin per month. So in a year, we can more than comfortably cover all of the psilocybin that's been legally administered in any clinical trial and build up a large stock for all future clinical trials. So supply right now, as of today, is certainly not an issue.
You mentioned the importance of intellectual property in this industry. Let's touch on the technical side of things one more time. The proprietary aspect and the proprietary approach to this method specifically going forward. Where do you see this as far as growth potential, specifically for some of this tech that's used in this process?
Right now, the market share, it's such that it is, if maybe you could make an analogy by the market capitalization of the naturally focused companies compared to synthetically focused companies is very, very small. And if we want to change that, we're going to have to give our best shot, and that includes very, very strong IP, which we believe we've done. So in broad sense, without giving away too many details, we've actually figured out for the first time how to make pharmaceutical grade formulations of natural psilocybin extracts and other psychedelics. So we spent a long time researching in the lab. We went through a process of elimination to identify all of the potential extraction methods that exist. And we filed for patent protection on all of them in order to give ourselves as strong of a moat as possible. Like I said, without these kinds of strong moat and relatively aggressive tactics, it's not going to be possible to peel away any kind of market share from a synthetic operator. So, we believe that we're very well positioned to do that and partner with other companies that want to take market share away from synthetic and grow the presence of natural in the psychedelic market.
A brand new listing on the NEO exchange, FH, guys, if you want to check out the ticker here in Toronto. What is to come next, Ben, for Filament Health?
You mentioned last week's listing. That was obviously a major milestone for the company, for the team. So obviously, I want to thank everyone involved. But obviously, we're not stopping there. We're not the very first psychedelics company to go public or to publicly list. But what we did do is we built an actual real good company with operations and manufacturing and IP and staff and all these sorts of things before we went public. Now it's a question of making the world aware of all the things that we've done and all the things that we plan to do. over the summer, we're expecting some very exciting news based on very good communication with the Intellectual Property Office here in Canada. We're expecting some very good news related to our intellectual property portfolio, as well as some news relating to our clinical trials. Not only are we seeking to partner with other companies, but we're very excited about our own clinical trial drug development program. We will be conducting at the University of California, San Francisco, the very first FDA-approved clinical trials using naturally extracted psychedelic substances. One of these trials is actually going to employ a compound from the magic mushroom that has never before been employed in an FDA-approved clinical trial. This is because many people in the industry, synthetic or natural, both assume that it's not even possible to manufacture a stable formulation of this compound. We think that the compound is actually better than psilocybin. As I said before, there's no rule that says that psilocybin is the best psychedelic, even within the magic mushroom. So over the summer, we're expecting lots of exciting results about clinical trial approvals, first dosing, and like I said in the beginning, news about the intellectual property patent portfolio progressing towards many different approvals.
Lightburn, CEO and co-founder of Filament Health, FH, guys, on the NEO Exchange, if you want to check out the ticker symbol. A pleasure to speak to you today, Ben. We look forward to an update in the future.
Thanks, Brendan.
There we go, guys. Filament Health, an all-natural approach to psychedelics, guys.